Hey everyone, welcome to the Tuesday Night Principal Call. Tonight we have a special guest, a special gift. Last DE, if you were at DE, she rocked it. Melissa Crago from Oakland, California, told her story, and just there was tears all over the room. And we're just talking. She's got so much history of DE, from Dr. Smeltzer and Dr. Allen. She is the embodiment of DE, and she's got a great story. I'm just going to let her, from Oakland, California, after 8 years of practice, taking over Alan Davis's office. Let's hear it for Melissa Crago. Take it, girl.
Hello. I panicked for a minute because it said mic is muted, and then I read while video plays. Last DE was my first opportunity to speak, and it was such an honor and definitely nerve-wracking and really exciting. And so now I'm like making my way through. I did the Monday night Band of Brothers call with Marilyn and Paula, and then DE, and I'm on a Tuesday night call, and it's been really fun and exciting. I was just telling them, so I took over Alan Davis's office. I've been practicing for 8 years. I graduated in September, so September will be 8 years. And my first year of practice, I'm not going to tell my whole story again, but my first year of practice was in another office, and then I came over here and took over for Dr. Allen. And when I go through the office, I still find little bits of things that he left behind. And so I wanted to share some of those tonight, and I'm going to sort of interweave it into what I'm going to talk about. But this is a whole book of Sidisms, which are fantastic, and there's about 650 of them. But then in the front of it, like folded in, is, and this is for like some of the maybe like people who have been around longer, it says the top 101 Sidisms by Ron Schmelzer, and then it says pronounced Smeltzer. And so I highlighted some of my favorites. But I'm going to start talking about the physical body and practices within that, being in practice now 8 years. And I remember a couple of DEs ago, Walter says, you've got to train or it hurts. And it's true. And so I've started to train more as my volume is starting to increase. I can definitely feel it. And so I talked a little bit about the idea of our barbells and like how much weight you can lift. And if you're not training, like you can't lift that barbell maybe that you want to lift, but the more preparation and the more training that you do. So that's, and I know that's been a little bit of a theme of like taking care of the physical body. There's lots of people like touching into like the fitness and the stretching. And that has been a huge practice that is helping me, that I've really dedicated to this year. And within that, I remembered a book that I read a long time ago by Mary Roach called Bonk, which is really a book about sex and analyzing all different kind of aspects. And there was a guy, I think in Asia somewhere, whose like whole job is like surgical correction of impotence. But I remember he was so passionate about what he did that he's like, I climb like the stairs to this like giant temple every single day because I want to make sure that I take care of my physical fitness, because what I do is so important. And that always like has stuck in the back of my mind. There's like, you know, like with these two hands, we give life back into the body. We remove interference and restore life. And so if this man who sort of did surgical correction of impotence was so dedicated to his physical health so that he could last and serve as long as possible, he had like a DE mindset in a whole different profession. That always sort of like rings in my head, and like taking care of myself. So it's like, I want to be able to serve at my best for as long as possible, like taking care. And that wasn't always the case. Like having a kid and like starting a practice, and you're constantly running. For those of you who have kids at home, you know what that sprint, the like marathon of sprints, it's a constant overhaul, and like finding those times to dedicate in whatever ways. Like I am not a very good self-exerciser. So I've hired a trainer and I go train with a trainer so that I make sure it happens in the way that I need to for my body. So one of my favorite Siddhisms is it's like 6 P's maybe. The painstaking preparation prevents piss poor performance. And I was thinking about that in the context actually of like the spiritual and mental realm. I'm listening to this book by Michael Singer called The Untethered Soul for the second time. And he's talking about keeping an open heart. And this thread of love has always been really strong for me within DE. And that was one of my very first meetings. That's what touched me the most, was just this feeling of love in the room and family. It was like so familiar and so lovely. But he says, like, we have access to infinite energy as long as we can keep our hearts open. And I think that is one of our jobs in this world, especially this world in this last year, is to help people to keep their heart open in the face of fear. And we have to do that for ourselves as much as we have to do it for other people. And it's like, if you don't love yourself, how do you love other people? The Michael Halloran, the size of your practice, is directly related to the size of your heart or the number of people that you can love. So in that theme of painstaking preparation and keeping an open heart, like practicing that. And this morning with my son Logan, who you guys have all seen like running around DE, he thought he lost he took gloves to camp yesterday, but he thought he left them in the forest and they were lost forever. And his dad got mad at him. He's like, I told you not to take them because you're going to lose them. And he got really down on himself. And so we're like driving to camp and I'm talking to him through like sort of an abundance mindset, and like, you're going to visualize, you're totally going to find your gloves, and like don't let a small thing like sort of cramp you down. And like, he gets sort of like a downward mental, he's like I'm never going to have anything again and nobody likes me, and like he'll spiral when something like disappointing happens. And so in that idea of preparation in the spiritual realm, I was thinking of Brian's statement, some Ds, like, you don't prepare for the storm in the middle of the storm. Like, you don't try to fix a leaky roof while it's raining. We have to do these preparations constantly. And that's like, we do our reading, we do meditation, we do physical training, spiritual training, and it has to just be a constant process. So that we're bolstered, so that when things come at us, inevitably things are coming at us throughout our lives, with our families, with our kids, with our partners, with our practices, that if we have done our diligence, and that bolstering also comes, that's why we go to the DE meetings, and that we can commune together and bolster each other, so that these practices carry us through, that our preparation not just prevents piss poor performance, like in the office, selling a package to a patient or educating them about subluxation, but also just in our day-to-day practices in life, that like, it doesn't, when we hit bumps in the road, it doesn't close down our heart. In thinking about this talk, I was also reading Selling Yourself in the Up from Below the Bottom. And it says this idea of like, stepping forward is just a series of falling and repeatedly catching yourself. And I really liked that idea. And so I'm going to read a couple of quotes, and then maybe we'll get some tangents off of that. In one of the Siddhams, as it says, the tide raises all boats. And in Up from Below, it also says that kites rise against the wind, not with it. And if there's no wind, you got to turn a propeller to make it. And this has definitely, I think, been our way. Is we're definitely swimming upstream in some areas, especially we are in an area where the fears of this year are particularly high. And today was supposed to be like the opening of California and the unmasking, and we probably got about like 20%. And I was like, everybody looks so happy today. And I'm like, it's because I can actually see them smile. And then I'm just going to read some quotes because I love them. And sometimes when I read, if some of you guys do this too, maybe you hear the person's voice in your head. And so I was reading BJ, but I really heard Sid's voice. And there's a part in the Selling Yourself that says 4 eyes, and its eyes spelled like eyeballs eyes. And then there's these like funny beginnings of the words, and it took my mind a minute to read it. And it says, analyze, energize, systematize, and advertise. But I could just hear, like, I'm sure Sid probably used it in some talk, and he's like, in his like very bolstery way, like emphasizing the eyes. And then above it was like the first advertisement was the rainbow, that the flood was over. And I thought that was really beautiful. And advertising has been something that has changed drastically in our practice this year. With everything shutting down, I really ventured into the world of internet marketing, and it was like the first time I really did that. And it really brought a whole new flood of people. And it was really, really cool to be able to, in this idea of eyes. So like, in addition to analyze, energize, systematize, and advertise, we want to also open the eyes. And one of my favorite talks or points from this last DE is Paul Roses was talking about. He's like, it's not my job to be their friend. It's my job to get them to question their own thinking. And that really came up for me in reading the Selling Yourself, because he was talking about all about interrupt, like pattern interrupt. Your job is to interrupt the mind of the buyer to lead it into the mind of the seller. And so that in all of our eyes, the opening of people's eyes, we can analyze our practice, we can energize our bodies, we can get systems, we can advertise to bring the people in. And I think one of our biggest jobs is to open people's hearts and to open their eyes to new ways and new things, or things that they already knew deep inside themselves, deep truths that they knew, that maybe they forgot. I think I might be coming to a close. One of my favorites, which I actually don't know the story around this, in one of Schmelzer's favorite citizens, it says, sell the turkey. And I will close with this on the idea of speaking with authority. It says, get rid of your inhibitions and speak with authority. Boldness has courage and magic. And that is one of the things that I am always trying to both keep in my child, is like that idea of youthful innocence and magic, and cultivate in myself, and remembering that that we all have a little bit of magic to share. And so I hope I have shared a few bits of magic with you tonight on this Tuesday evening. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet. So thank you guys all for having me.
That was a lot of magic there. Thank you so much. So you need to share some of these citizens, if you can, online, throughout the days for everybody, especially some of those old timers like Schmelzer and Alan Davis. And a lot of the new people in DE don't even know who those people are. And when I first started coming to DE, they were big wigs and everything. I would like to see, to carry the torch on. If you don't mind, to share some of those on Facebook.
I will. I'll take up I'll take a page from Jamie's book and put together citizens, and I'll start putting them out there.
Yeah, I just saw Jamie said. I thought that's exactly what I thought of. That was great. That was great. And you love on that little boy there for the rest of the night. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing your heart. I can't wait to see you.
Thank you.
Love you all and good night.